Hey guys, so what we're going to be working on today is Banoffee Pie. Several of you have made this before, but this is just so you know exactly what goes into it, so you can replicate it at home. So first of all, most important thing, we're washing our hands, right? Every time we're doing anything in the kitchen, we're always washing our hands at least 20 seconds, making sure we're getting them good and clean. So, first thing we're doing on the actual pie itself is we're going to work on the sweetened condensed milk. So I have 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk. I'm dropping that down into cold water to start off with. And I'm going to put the lid on here. We're actually going to turn this on and we're going to let that simmer for the next 4 hours. Now, pay attention to it, because you may need to top it off with a little more water every now and again, as it will start to evaporate a little even with the lid on. So keep an eye on it. But let it simmer. Don't boil it rapidly, just let it simmer gently for 4 hours. That's going to make this into our toffee, into our caramelized sweetened condensed milk. So we'll come back to that later. What we're going to work on over here though, this is going to be our base for our Banoffee pie. So we're going to take some nice butter, fresh butter. We're going to drop this in to our pan. Let me turn this on to a modest temperature. Drop that in, and we're gonna start letting this melt. It may take a few minutes, but make sure you keep it on a modest temperature. You do not want to have this go on too high of a temperature, otherwise the butter will burn. The only way you can take butter up to a high temperature is if you clarify it, but we don't want to clarify it today. We want to have the whole butter in there. So take a few minutes, let it slowly melt, be patient, just keep it moving around, and don't allow it to get too hot that it starts to burn. Okay, so now our butter is nicely melted down. It's on a gentle, modest temperature. We need to add 2 things to create our base for our Banoffee pie. So we're going to use a full pack of our honey-made crackers, and these are great because they'll add a nice crunch to the base, and they're very simple to be able to use as well. So we're going to take a whole pack here, and let's start the process by crunching them up a little, make our life a little easier. If you want to, you could actually put these into a Ziploc bag and crunch them down with a rolling pin or something like that. But what we're going to do, the objective of this is to actually break them all down into crumbs. So, we can drop these right into the butter. And now, the next item we want to use is sugar, just regular sugar. And we're going to take a 1/4 cup. As we know, when we're measuring cups, we literally make sure it's full just to the brim. We're not making a rounded brim, we're just filling up to the brim. And now, what we need to do is continue to crush these down and stir it around so that all of the butter is evenly mixed in, all of the sugar is evenly mixed in. But then, most importantly after that, we want this to be a crumb base. So, crush them down. This may take a few minutes. You might need to even turn the temperature, or you may need to turn the ring off, just so that you don't end up burning anything. Because now that you have the graham crackers in there, it is susceptible to burning. So just be patient, keep it crushing down, keep it stirring. And enjoy the smell. Okay, now you can see we have this wonderful crumb mix. It smells delightful. So we can now go straight in to a nice container, a pan of some sort. If you have a pie crust container, or if you have something like this where I have a Pyrex bowl, it doesn't stick too badly to that as well, so that can be useful. If you need to, you can always rub a little cooking oil or a little release spray to it, just to make sure that it doesn't stick too badly. But what I'd also like to show you today is, just in case, if this isn't something you're comfortable with, or if you don't have the ingredients at hand to be able to do that, if you just happen to have a graham cracker crust in your pantry that you want to use up, then we have this as another alternative that we can use to making this. So now, something I want to show you. This is our 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk that we simmered for 4 hours. If you remember, we started that a while back. I've allowed these to cool back down for several hours because you don't want to be opening this when it's boiling hot. It can eject itself straight through there, and it is incredibly hot. So now, as it's had a chance to cool down, it's safe again. That's always the number one thing in our kitchen. We're always being safe. So now you can see it's this wonderful caramel. It's absolutely delicious, very, very rich, because the base of it is sweetened condensed milk. So it has basically milk that's been concentrated and then added into there is some sugar. So we're going to stir this up, make some weird noises with it as we're stirring, but we want to break it up a little bit. We don't want it to be a solid mass. We want it to be a nice pourable caramel. So careful as you go, maybe do it over the top of your pie crust, just in case of any drops out. And then just go ahead, drop it straight in. And we can smooth this one out. Now, before we get any further, we have something to add into our Banoffee pie. We have the ban as part of the Banoffee, so we need some bananas to add in there. So let's go grab those. Okay, now we have our bananas. Go ahead and carefully peel those. We want to use bananas that are reasonably ripe, so that way you get all the sweetness of those bananas. We're going to slice nice big pieces. I'm going to do tiny thin little pieces because we actually want these to stand out as a big part of our Banoffee pie. That's important because you can't have a Banoffee pie without bananas. So we'll place these all around. Now I'm making this pie for my family, and so my clean hands are adequate enough. But as we know, if we're working in the culinary industry, a big, very important thing is that right now we will be wearing our gloves because these are ready to eat food items. So it's important that we make sure we keep our food safe. So if we're in a commercial kitchen setting, then we must do that. Right now I'm making this for my family, so we'll be fine. But so now we take the second can of our sweetened condensed milk. It's now caramelized up and looking absolutely wonderful. I'm going to give this a good stir up. I'm going to pour this straight over the top so we can nice and evenly cover all these bananas up as well. And then just start spreading this over the top to get a nice even coating. Okay, so now we have our bananas are completely covered over with our toffee, and that's important because bananas suffer from enzymic browning. So as we know, once we slice into things like bananas, and that includes pears, apples, potatoes, they have enzymes in them that will actually cause them to brown down. So we need to make sure that they're sealed off. So as you can see, the toffee has now completely covered over those bananas so that they won't brown now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to finish this up with a nice topping. So I've got some heavy whipping cream, and we're going to need for this probably about a half pint, probably about 8 ounces of heavy whipping cream. And all we're going to do now is we're going to whip it up. If you have a hand mixer, this may be a little quicker. Certainly we don't need a large mixer to be able to do this small amount, but a hand mixer would make it a little quicker. If not, just be patient, just whip away by hand until it's ready. Okay, so as you can see, we're at the right consistency now. The cream is nice and thick, but it's not over whipped. Be very careful not to over whip the cream, otherwise it can actually start to separate out, and then you're going to end up having butter and buttermilk, and that's not what you actually want to have. You want to have this wonderful rich whipped cream. So now we have our banoffee pie and our cream for our topping, and so we're just going to finish this up now just by taking some of that cream and just drop it on top evenly around, and then you're literally just going to want to move this around to disperse it, to have this wonderful fresh cream topping, and try and disperse it nice and evenly all around. Okay, and so now that we've got the cream distributed across the top, we can do a little effect to it. We can do a little of this that gives it some more of those kind of ridges. You can, if you would like to, you can actually pipe the cream out if you want to give it some design to it as well. But this just gives it some nice texture just to kind of finish it off. But as you can see from here, we have this wonderful cream topping to it. We have the caramel that we can see right underneath there. The bananas are hidden inside there, so that's something a little surprise for people to enjoy as they're eating it, with the graham cracker crust at the bottom. This finishes up with a delicious pie. If you'd like, you can actually grate a little chocolate or get some little chocolate chips just to drop over the top. But you did notice though that the cream that we used, we didn't put any sugar in there because we want that to be on the non-sweeter side, just because there's enough sugar already in there. I wouldn't recommend adding any sugar to the cream itself. But this is our finished pie. I hope you enjoy. I'd love to see some pictures back from anybody on their experiences with these. Let me know what you think.